Right. Okay. So we're on part 3 of my our project management series. Part 1 and 2 are on YouTube, so later. It's not mandatory to have seen the other 2 to be here today, but it might be an advantage. And today we're going to talk about package management. Okay. Package management is not something you really know you need in R until you've worked in R for a little while. So hopefully for some of you, this is just, you just don't know why you would need it, and that's totally fine. I'm trying to save you future troubles. For those who know and have experienced what dependency issues you can have in R with packages over time, I'm hoping this will alleviate your future problems as well, and hopefully solve some current ones, hopefully. So, just to recap from last time, first time we talked about project workflows, about how a project contains all the files you need for the project within the project folder, and all necessary outputs are created by scripts in the project, and code can be run in fresh sessions without error and produce the same output, and doesn't force other people to adopt your particular way of working. So it doesn't install packages for it, doesn't change settings of how your R works in any way. And then last time we talked a little bit about organizing your files, naming your files. You all can learn from this, me included. Even though I know all these principles, doesn't mean I always apply them. So, but we talked about which files are meaningful to have in our project, and how to name files so that they're easy machine readable, they're easy human readable. You can get some idea of the content of the file by looking at its name, and you can understand what it contains by looking at the file type. And so we had like this example of which of these 2 naming conventions we would prefer. You know which one I would prefer? It's a trick question. You should all prefer number 2. Because it tells us exactly the dates things were made. It's ordered in a nice, neat fashion because of that. And the very succinct naming of the human readable part is also understandable to us as humans, what the content of the file is, contrary to the first version, which just who knows. Okay, so today we're on number 3, package or library management. Next time we're doing a Git and GitHub crash course, and prepare, it will be super crash course. It will be the most crashy course I've ever taught. It's an extremely complicated concept that I will teach you in an hour. You will not learn it, but you will have some idea. That's where we're going. So let's talk about packages or libraries in R. So a package in R is an extension of the language. So it's something you can install and call in R to get some increased functionality of what R can do. R, in its like absolute base functionality, can do ugly plots, good statistics, but simple statistics, and some basic tables. It is not like the most versatile language in the world. Then come all the packages, which turns it into a much more versatile tool. So the first extensions that were made to R were mainly like statistical tools, like running different types of models. The basic models in R are more or less all types of linear models, which are great. I mean, most of what we do are linear models, that's great. But we do more complicated stuff, and that's what packages do. But they also like are packages for making nicer plots, for making documents. And so it's really been very, very, very much extended. But these change over time, and that is where our problem happens. And just to give an example, we have several packages made by staff here at LCBC. We have the GCSEC Universe packages that plot brain segmentations in R. We have the in-house questionnaire package, which creates like component scores for the different questionnaires we have. We have Øystein's Galam package, which fits generalized additive latent and mixed models in R. And we have a NetSchema package that connects to the NetSchema API. So these are all like tools that we've made in the lab so that we can do more stuff in R. Basically, we want to do more stuff in R. Or to solve like the Galam package, Øystein made to solve a specific problem in a paper, and then he made a package so that others could apply the same method if they wanted to. Pretty good, pretty cool. So what are like the common package issues? So this actually has less to do with package management, but more to do with kind of understanding how R works and what it does. So a package I loaded masks a function from another package I want to use. So the downside with packages in R is that they can have the same function names. So that's annoying. So I know, for instance, that there's a package called mass, which is one of the base R packages, has a function called select, and then there's the select function from dplyr. And we use dplyr quite a lot in our lab because I teach tidyverse. So it's my preferred style of coding in R. And this problem happens quite a lot, most often with Christina. Yeah, and it can give some pretty like weird errors. Like the errors will not tell you that this is the problem. It will just give you some other obtuse error message that can be hard to understand if you've not seen it before. So how do we avoid this masking? So it's hard to completely avoid the masking, but we can make sure that the masking happens in a way that we want it to happen. So the first solution would be to load the libraries in reverse order of importance. So the most important package is the package you load last in your script, which means any function from that package would mask any other similar named functions in the other packages you loaded before. This is how it works.
Mask, so, you mean cancels?
Yes, basically it cancels it. You can still access it in another way, which is solution number 2. So it doesn't disappear. It's still there. It still exists. It's just that by default, it will access the function from the last package. Now, the tidyverse is quite nice. When you load it, it will tell you what functions from other packages are being masked, which is really nice. Other packages won't tell you necessarily. I think there's some new functionality that should give you maybe a warning, but historically, I think that's not happened. So if you always want tidyverse functions, first and foremost, it goes like library call 1, 2, 3, 4 tidyverse, the last one. That's where you go. The second solution is only works if you only want 1 or 2 functions from whichever library you're using. So for instance, if you want to use just a single function from the mass package, the very particular linear model for GLS, you could call it specifically by using the double colon. So the way that works is you give the package name, a double colon, and then a function name, and it will call just that function from that package and not load the rest of the package. Yes, it does.
One question. When you that's yeah, I do that. But in terms of when you want to report and put this into like when people for wood coding practices,
yeah,
should you say at some point that you need mass for a package?
I would probably make a comment at the top of the document. Yes.
Okay.
But if it's run in RStudio will give the warning anyway if the package is not installed. But obviously, not everyone uses RStudio, even though it's R-centric. So I would probably make a comment at the top that it also uses it. Or I would put it in the description file, if you have a description file, that it uses that package. But the double colon is really great. And the double colon is also a workaround if you first have loaded the libraries in the wrong order and you need to access it. But in my opinion, that's just the quick workaround for then and there. The real, like, if you have loaded a new library that masks a key function for you, you should have written everything you need in your script so you can restart your R session and start from the beginning again and load the new package you're using first and then the rest later. Everyone who's followed my courses know I refresh my R session often. And this is one of the reasons I refresh it very, very often. Because, oh, maybe I need to do this thing. Oh, maybe it has a function that masks one of mine. Let me restart. I load that package up first and then the rest of my important ones. And then I start all over again. And my script should be reproducible. So I should be able to do all the steps over and over again, even though I've refreshed my RSS. So one of the reasons this masking often happens is because I see people load packages further down their scripts. And this will be a problem if you load packages further down your script, because then you lose kind of control of what comes after when. So whenever you introduce a new package to your pipeline, refresh your R session, put it at the top, you do everything over again.
That was very useful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my like default way of doing. I mean, okay, you can trial and error a bit. Maybe you don't know if this is the package you want to use. Maybe you're not sure if it does exactly. You load it, you try. If you figure out, yes, this is doing what I want, then refresh, put it at the top, start over again. But be aware of this. If you are doing lots of trial and error on different packages, they will start colliding with each other at some point. So refreshing your session and starting over is a way to kind of give yourself a clean slate so that it doesn't get too messy in the background where you don't even see that it's happening.
Should you ever have calls to libraries further down the script as well? Because I'm thinking, so one common class that I have is the PP core package for partial correlations.
You bet.
I assumed it was the same one for you. I assumed.
Always, but I
Yeah.
always call the flyer select in my.
Yeah, so Christina uses the double colons and like almost everything. because
Okay.
of this issue.
But alternatively, you could also load PP core when you need it, and then reload tidyverse further down the script as well when you
No.
have a backfill.
That
That
will
does-
not work.
I have
Once
tried.
the-
Okay,
Once
okay.
the package is loaded, it will not reload itself on the question because it is already loaded. This is why you refresh and you start over. Yeah, because a refresh of a session is the only thing, unless you explicitly use the detach, which no one ever does, because it's a bit too obscure for that, and it's more reproducible to refresh, start over.
Yeah.
So in theory, so if you only ever use the PP core function from the PP core package, you go PP core : PP core
okay.
instead of loading the entire PP core package.
Right.
Because then it won't mask it. If that's the only one, I do it a lot with reading in files. Like if I'm reading in an SPSS file, that's going to happen once in my script. I am not loading the entire Haven package, which is quite large, for that one function. I call it directly with double colon instead. So it's also a question of kind of thinking a bit like, do I need the entire package or do I need this one function? If the answer is this one or two function, don't load the entire thing, just get the one. Of course, there are caveats to that. Like you won't get like built-in methods from the package. That can be tricky, but I know for PP core that's not the case. You will not be able to do. There's few ggplots I think that would work without calling the entire ggplot. Like it would be hard to make a ggplot without actually having the entire library loaded. So there are some exceptions to this rule.
Yeah.
Or you can still do it, but it'll be hacky and ugly, and you don't want to do it.
But I think for PP core, it's probably better to just call that because it's something we do to do sanity checks, but then we don't use it anymore. So I do this mistake all the time and it messes up all the scripts. So yeah, I should rather do that. It's actually a very good idea. So PP core double colon PP core, and then I just do that single task, So we should just by default not
Just do
call
not fold
it.
it.
I
yeah.
agree, because
Because
it
it's
really
really just
messes
that-
everything
It's
up.
just that one function we use, and it's a really good function. It's just, yeah.
No question. And there's any way to check if there are libraries that you have uploaded that you're not using on the script? Because
Yeah,
I often
good
like start
question.
like
Yeah.
doing like, I don't know, corplot, and then
Ah,
it's
that's a
like,
good question.
then I don't want to use corplot. It's just like for kind of,
I think I love too many packages.
Yes, you probably do. A lot of people do. I see a lot of you also loading packages that you typically already loaded. Like you load the dplyr and then you load tidyverse afterwards. Tidyverse will load the dplyr for you. So it's not necessary to do it twice. Doesn't matter, but it's just, it's not necessary. So I'm pretty sure there is a function that would check what packages are attached. But I don't think it will check if you use the functionality from the package. That's kind of up to you. And the way I check that is sometimes if I really want to like slim things down, and I usually do that for when I create packages and I want to make sure that I only list the dependencies I absolutely need for a package, I will literally comment out the library call to that package and try to run my script and see if it still runs.
Yeah.
Like that's it sounds stupid, but that works.
Mhm.
And I can't think of another one, but I will for sure ask some people. Maybe someone made a package that would check that.
Mhm.
Sounds like a likely thing that someone would want to know.
But this is a stupid question, but of course it lists the conflicts when you load a package, right?
Not
Yeah,
always.
but sometimes it
Tidyverse
does.
will
Mm.
always list conflicts. And it's more and more common that other packages will do the same.
But I'm thinking, is there an easy way? So we know about the PP core and the dplyr select or the tidyverse select, but it's like to get an overview of the common conflicts. I think so that it actually took some time before this dawned on me. Is it? Do you have any tips for
Not
that?
really.
No, we
No.
just have to
Because
learn
yeah,
the hard
because
way.
yeah, unfortunately
Yeah.
we do. Because there's no like control. People make their packages and it's kind of
Mm.
up to them to give them good names, and sometimes good names just collide, which is unfortunate.
Okay, so what you're saying is that there's no way to know if you're gonna mask something
Yeah.
along the way,
Yeah.
unless it gives you.
Unless it gives you a warning. And I think, I can't really super remember, but I think they actually introduced that functionality in BaseR not too long ago, that it would warn about conflicts no matter what. But I'm not 100% sure. The tidyverse always does, because that's part of it. Like that's part of what it does on load, is check for conflicts. I don't know if all packages do that. So it's a bit of learning, but usually like if you, yeah. And the error messaging can be almost anything when you're trying to call some function on something and it doesn't work. So I can't even give you the error message because it will be different depending on the function. So it's just a question about trying. But we had this just like for GTSEC actually, it was this guy who wrote an issue on our repository, and it was doing my head in. I couldn't reproduce his error and whatnot. And then he linked to his entire script, and I realized he was loading another package that had a data set called the same as one of our atlases. So the atlas, it wasn't the correct data anymore. And that's what was failing, but it was really obscure and really hard to see. And it wasn't until I saw the entire script that I could detect that that was what was going on. So it's, yeah, difficult. But then I'll put in a check in my functions that checks if it's a GTSEC atlas and to give you a warning if you're trying to plot something that's not a GTSEC atlas. So it kind of depends a bit on the package if it manages to capture it. Yeah, so we did this. We talked about this. Yeah, so the package I used a year ago no longer exists. This is proper whoa. This is really annoying. But just because it doesn't exist when you run install packages doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It exists. There are systems that like MRAN, which is the Microsoft reproducible something. Sorry, Microsoft, I couldn't remember the name. It's basically a snapshot archive of the entire CRAN repository. CRAN is where all the R packages live. And when you run install packages, CRAN is where it looks for it. So MRAN is a Microsoft daily snapshot of CRAN, which means if you give it a date, it will find that package on that date. So that is a place we can look for it. So we can work with it. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily easy, because it might not be compatible with the R version you have. Maybe you need to actually install an older R version to get it working. Maybe you actually also need older companion packages to that package. So it's not easy, but it is possible. It is possible. We can do it. But this can also happen, and this can be hard to figure out when you're sitting. Maybe you inherited someone's scripts sometime, and you're like, hey, this package, I can't even find this package. Does this package exist? You don't know. You can check MRAN. May I continue? So barely touched about why we care about package management in R. So packages do change over time. Just like R changes over time, the packages change over time. So it might run your code differently, which might be good, might be bad. In most cases, we hope for some bug to have been fixed, so that would be good. But it could also have introduced a bug, which is not so good. So that's figuring that out. We also collaborate. So it's also not always easy to make sure that like your collaborators are working on the same package versions as you. And also maybe your collaborators don't want to update their package versions for very specific reasons. I have had reasons to not want to update packages. And it's annoying to have to ask them to do that, to run your code when they're helping you, right? They're there to help you, and then you mess up their work situation in a way, and that's not very nice. So as I said, packages change. So a bug was fixed, a bug was introduced. Another library, the package depends on change, something that turns the one you're using into something different. It no longer contains the function you need. I have experienced that. It collides with other packages you use suddenly, so now maybe you need to change the order of things, maybe whatever, or it's no longer maintained and you cannot install it easily. So there are lots of reasons we need to care about package management in R. And it hasn't historically been easy to deal with package management in R. But there are solutions. So there's the RStudio package manager, but that's an enterprise solution. So that would only work if Christina decided that we will pay for this service of package management. Totally unnecessary for a small lab like us. Talk to University IT about it, because I think that would be awesome for them. They're not interested, but that's what it is. There's a package called PackRat, which is probably one of the first ones of its kind that tried to deal with package management in R. I tried using it. I found it a bit too complicated when I tried. It did things I wasn't very happy with, so I ended up just totally stopped using it completely. There's a fairly new one called Checkpoint that I have no experience with. I just saw it when I was Googling like package managers for R. I just wanted to be upfront about what exists, but it does look promising. But the one we're gonna use is something called renv. It's fairly new, it's widely used, it's developed by RStudio, so you can be sure that it will be maintained well. They won't introduce or change its default behavior without thorough thought and advanced notice, so we can be sure that it works over time. And it's quite simple, so I was quite surprised. I was testing it out and I was like, oh wait, this is not change how I work in a substantial way, which is always a good sign when it doesn't introduce too much burden on us to actually get better at what we do. So what they advertise, so I took this from their webpage. So this is what they advertise with. So it makes our projects more isolated so that installing or updating packages for one project won't break the packages for other projects. We will see how that works later. So it gives each project its own package library. So now, like instead of having one package or like repository on your computer for all your projects, it makes one for each of your projects instead. It makes it portable, so you can transport your project from one computer to the other, run a function, and then your project is up and running again with the correct package dependencies. And then it makes it more reproducible. I think the first document version of this advertisement said it made it completely reproducible, and they kind of taken that down a little. It makes it more reproducible. It doesn't fix the reproducibility issue, but it makes it a bit better. So it records the exact package version you're using. So not just the package, the version you're using, so that we can get back to that. And ensure that those exact versions are the ones that are installed for you to work on. So this is really, really good. So I tried during my PhD, I literally made functions to try to make this happen, because I was working on my Mac portably, but then on the cluster I was working on in Linux, so I needed something that would like load the correct packages for it. Like it was a mess, it was horrible. This is just like, it sounds like a dream to me. When I look at my old scripts of that package management, my own private package management system, horrible. This is much, much nicer. So in it, I mean, it is like ridiculously easy. There's a lot of complex functionality in there that we can access if we want. But in most cases, we will not need that like super complicated functionality. So it should be used in project, and I say should, and I actually mean it is used in project, because if you're not in the project when you initiate RN, it will make one, which I experienced yesterday when I initiated a project within my R project to test. I didn't in the folder in my, so I nested an R project without meaning to. And so that's what happened there. So it will create one for you if you're not already in the project. And to initiate it, you just run rn : init or initiate. And then as an example, just ran this on my computer. So I checked where my library path is to begin with before I initiated a project. I just checked. So this is, so .libpaths checks where our packages are kind of stored by default on your computer. So this is the folder. It's stored within library, frameworks, R, blah, 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 in this folder. All my packages that I install here. And then I initialized RN, and then it detected, it did detect more, but I mocked it to just 3 because the list was too long. It was like 190 packages long. So I reduced it to 3, found 3 packages, and then it discovered them, it copies the packages to where it goes, and then it updates something called a log file. We'll figure out what the log file is later. And then I had to look again at where my project, where my library path was, and suddenly I have a new one on the top here. And the top one is the first place this project will look for a package, and then it will look in the second one if you can't find it there. And this is actually within like a subfolder of my talks project. You've seen this talks path before. If you've been in this course before, this is where my talks folder is. So it's actually stored all the packages in that folder specifically. And it means that if I update the packages in this project, it will update the packages in this folder and not in this one. And for those who are online, I'm pointing this. It will not update the packages in number 2. It will just update the packages in number 1. Sorry. So that's that. I think that's pretty cool. That makes it really nice. Yeah, but I still have questions here. So we will. There are still like things happening here that I'm not sure of. So that will be interesting to see when we start collaborating later. Then it makes something called a log file. You know, it mentioned like, and then the log file was made. What the hell is a log file? So a log file is, this is a snapshot of my log file, RM log file. It's a JSON file that tells us what this project depends on. So number one, it tells me that my R version is 4.1.2. Nice. It tells me where it's looking for the packages to install. It doesn't list cron because it just assumes that it should be looking at it. But I have a couple of like special places it should be looking for packages before it looks at cron, and it lists those. And then it lists the packages. So it lists DBI, the version, type of package, it comes from cron, and then the unique hash code for that version of that package. It's extremely detailed, and you will never need to deal with this by hand. But this file is what makes it possible for your collaborators to install packages on their computer that match your system completely, which is pretty cool. But how did RM know what I'm depending on? Like, how does it know? Like I said, it found 190 packages in my talks project. Where did it find these packages? So RM by default just looks for all the files in your project, any place that says library something, require namespace something, or a direct call to a function within a package. It looks for these lines everywhere. And if it finds it, it will put it in the log file, and that's part of your project now. If you have a description file, it will also look in something called depends and imports. So yeah, it finds it. It just, you don't have to tell it which packages you're relying on. If you're loading them in your scripts, it will know, and it will put it there, and it's all fine and dandy. I find that very satisfying, not having, because I never remember which package. Tidyverse always, and then the rest is kind of like I don't remember. So let's say you want to share your project with someone. Now, there is no point in sharing like that folder with all the actually installed packages, because that's system dependent to me, only to my system. It might work on some of the Macs here. Probably most of them actually, but it wouldn't work on a Windows computer, for instance. But that doesn't matter. If you share the entire folder with the log file, and the log file is the key here, they need the log file. Your collaborators, or when you switch a machine, you need to run rn restore, and then it will set up the project for them. We'll download all the packages with the correct versions, and the correct project-specific path, and they are ready to go. That to me is magic.
So it doesn't duplicate the file system for the packages within. No. So like every project doesn't end up copying like the packages.
No.
Yeah. Kind of looked like it at first.
Yeah. It does do some duplication, but not a lot. I think if it can, it will use like symlinks and stuff, like if the same versions are here and there to reduce stuff. But it will do some duplication, obviously. But our packages take very, very little space. It's all basically text files.
Yeah.
So they're not a big burden on your file system. But we'll see. I mean, I haven't had much experience yet, so it'll be interesting to see how it might escalate at some point. So will very soon be, what is it? I have no idea. I don't have time here.
It's 11 past 1.
Oh yes, I still have a little time. Just put this question in. So this is one of the questions from the frequently asked questions that I thought was very good to capture here. It's like, I'm returning to an older RM project. What do I do? So you have like two options on how to work with RM. You can treat it as a time capsule with like the dependencies completely frozen in time, or you can treat it as a fluid project you're mainly using Ireland to kind of isolate the project package management. So by that, so when you use Ireland restore, it will install the packages as it's described in the log file with those specific versions. And it will complain if your R version is newer than the one used when the project was initiated. So it will tell you like, hey, you should find an older R version if you want to truly do this. And this you might want that. You might want it as a time capsule. It really depends on what type of project you have. But in most cases, I would say we actually want to treat it more like a fluid dependency. In very few cases, I will say someone has a really good reason to say, no, I don't want to update any packages, but maybe there is a reason, like there's a statistical tool and they removed something or they changed something in a statistical method that would alter the results in a way that you didn't believe in whatever you didn't want to update, then use the time capsule. In most cases, I would say you want to treat it as a fluid dependency. You're using RN to create a snapshot, a way of kind of isolating the package management for this one project so it doesn't collide with other projects you have, and to make it easier for your collaborators to be in the same spot as you are. So when you're coming back to a project after a long time, let's say we get a review a year after we send it in, you never know, and you want to redo everything, you should decide at the beginning, do I want to produce the same results as last, or do I want to update everything and kind of get the more updated version of all these things? Then you run in it again, and it will ask you, do you want to restore the project from a log file? That would be as if you were restoring it actually. So it's asking you if you use the correct function. Discard the log file and reinitiate the project so that you can start over again, or activate the project without snapshotting. But you would want to do a number 2, which would basically you would be able to run Armin upgrade to kind of update all of your packages that were called before and then start over again. New, fresh, happy library, all updated. So this depends on what you want to do, but it does make it easier. So no more. Yeah. So one thing I am super curious about, and I talked to one of our ladies friends about this morning, and we don't know what's going to happen when we use RN on a shared network drive like the lagringshotell. We don't know, and I'm super interested to figure out what is going to happen because I don't know. So many people access the lagringshotell from the Windows computers in our offices. They obviously have very different package installations than Mac machines, which a lot of other of us use on the lagringshotell. And how is RN gonna react when there are different, like, I don't know. It doesn't say anything about it. Maybe because this is not something a lot of people do. I actually don't know. I actually think people do that. Probably, but maybe not people that do this stuff. Because what RN is really made for is collaborating through Git and GitHub, like which is like we don't share the project on the same file system. We work on it locally, and then we give it to Git and put it on GitHub, and then someone else updates theirs by pulling it from GitHub and continuing working locally. And that RN deals with perfectly. It has systems for that. We will look at that after the Git session. But on a shared network drive that is accessed from multiple operating systems, I have no idea how that's going to work. So that's going to be interesting. And I know exactly how I would want it to work. So if it doesn't do that, I am making an issue ticket to the RN people too, because they're nice. These are nice people, and maybe they've just not thought about it because they're not used to working that way. They're used to working with this like cloud kind of situation.
But you think that that will apply for the people who use their actual Windows stationary machines, like on lagringshotell accessing the
Yes.
network drive? Because when we mount lagringshotell, we are in essence working with our versions locally.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
that doesn't
files,
matter,
right?
but the packages are very
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So that's like, as I, so let's see if I can, where is my, this isn't a very like enormous book. So let's have a look at my, this is very tiny, I will make it bigger. Is that big enough? So when I initiated RN here, you can see my RN log file is here. It's full of stuff. And then it creates a folder called RN. Very nice. And in this library folder, if I can click it. Oh, it's super laggy. Oh, it's because, oh, this is why. There was a Zoom thing in front of it on my computer. There we go. The actual package library is here. So and this would not work on a Windows. This library is not going to work on a Windows machine because it's a Mac library, which we see from this name. So I'm curious if Aaron understands that someone opened this project on another operating system and understands that this folder is not for it. But I don't know because I didn't have time to test it before this workshop. So it will be interesting to see. But at this point, we're all starting on our projects, if I have time, for those who want to stay and have time.
So if you give that to your collaborators who work on Windows, they will not.
We don't know. I have no idea. I'm very, very curious.
They must have.
I'm also assuming they have thought of this. They just haven't written about it, which is why I'm.
That's strange, yeah.
Maybe they just haven't thought about writing about it. I don't know.
It's just the versions that you need, doesn't it? The package versions, which are the same for Windows and Mac.
No, but this is the installs. These are installed. These are installed packages.
Yeah, but from the log file, it could, I don't know if it's a different system, it could just find out the library versions it needs and then like update that for Windows rather than actually take from the files that have been.
Yeah. But I just don't know what it's. But I don't know if I don't know what it's going to do.
Yeah, because how would it do that? Because that would mean that it would have to also save versions of the packages for another operating
Which it
system.
doesn't do.
No.
It wouldn't do that.
So where does it get it? I mean, it.
So
can.
I'm assuming that I'm hoping, this is like my idea of its default behavior would be someone opens this project in another operating system and realizes that this is a different operating system and will not try to load these.
Yeah.
Will not add this path.
Get it from Grant on a snapshot.
Will not load this path, but I'm assuming we would have to run rn restore for it to actually start downloading to that computer. That is what I'm assuming default behavior would be. And I'm assuming that they thought of this, or else they wouldn't have like named it like this. They wouldn't have used the actual operating system's name like this, I think. I hope. I really like, but I don't know. So this is like the one place I wasn't sure how it exactly would deal with the way we are working together on the lagringshotell. Because I see it working perfectly on Git. Perfectly on Git and GitHub. They've totally covered that. So that's not a problem. But on the lagringshotell, I was a bit more unsure. So, yeah, this is the. Christina. So does didn't I have a project for this at one point? Not like where is workshop project? Here we are. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. So everyone who wants to follow along should open their workshop projects from the last time or make one for now.
Make a new one.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you don't have one. And that was maybe a bit too big again. Is this a good size? And then after this, I'm totally making a project on the lagringshotell and I'm asking someone to access it from a Windows machine, and I'll be super curious to what happens. So if we are in our project, maybe, hopefully, then technically all we need to do to initiate rn is to write rn init. I'm going to do that. See what happens. How does it have this many packages? It's a lot of packages. Well, the tidyverse is a big package, so it didn't tell me how many. Aw. But there's quite a lot of packages and tells me exactly which versions it got. Yeah, I'm working on an LCBC R package, so it got that as well from a remote. Tells me where it made the log file, and then it makes sure I'm in the correct project. So if you run yours, does it look more or less the same-ish?
But I don't have any packages on that new project yet, so I would need to.
No, you would
Not
but
much.
just run it.
Yeah.
It's gonna put some in there.
The if I run the init.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's
So one thing that's pretty cool with RN is that when you initiate it, it does all this stuff. So if it finds packages, it will list it here. But the thing is, once you're in the project, if you install the package, it will start tracking it. It will assume that, hey, oh yeah, right, you need this package for this project. Yeah, cool. I'll put it in the log file and I'll put it in the right place and I'll track it for you. You don't have to like explicitly tell it to do that. It will do it for you. So let's say up here, let's go with Quebecool because we all know it. So hopefully if I run install packages, Quebecool, which was not in my list before, right? Let's just double check. If I know the alphabet. Yeah, so it's not listed here. That's actually super cool. Why did it do that? Did I have it from before? It actually got an old version of PP Core from MRAN. Wow. I keep forgetting that this is a touch screen. I actually don't know why it did that. That's interesting. I will figure that out later. Why it went to MRAN instead of CRAN. But now, so did you notice, does this install look different than like when you run install packages before? Yeah, this is because this is our end doing it. So instead of getting that like long diagnostic that you get that you have no idea what means because you are not a developer, IRM takes over and shows you this snapshotted version instead. what it's doing. So now it's installed in the project specific library folder, and it should have been added to my lock file as well. Search for maybe it didn't add it to it. So I need to do RN snapshot. Oh God.
I just created a new project, but then I started a new script and I tried. That does not work. But I didn't do it on console, but I don't know why.
Permission denied.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. So it doesn't seem that
There's something,
very odd.
because it's your computer, it's super weird. Let's have a look.
Never seen this.
No, me neither. This is really, really weird. This is something different. It's always nice, right? When you're the one that has something different. Why is it always you?
I know I have very bad karma. I just closed my other project and I thought, okay, I'll start a new one.
Yeah, but you don't have, yeah, how can you make your, like, it's not right accessible. That's why you made a folder that's not right accessible.
No, but I didn't do anything special.
I
I
know you
installed it.
didn't.
I did it under my user at lagringshotell.
Oh, this is that logging.
Yeah, I thought I would because I thought I would
Ah.
try that because you said, right?
Yeah, but haven't we had issues with lagringshotell and right access?
Not in my own project, in my own
Oh,
user
fine.
folder.
No.
This is under Christina. This has never happened. That's why I put it there.
But there's more of them that look like this.
Sorry.
Why
No, I'm
is-
messing up for everyone else.
Why is
But
it always you though?
I'm haunted.
That's so many
Yeah, because a lot of like, so RN will capture not only like the explicit packages, but the dependencies of those packages as well. So it captures like the entire.
But don't let
Tree.
me crash your workshop with my bad karma. You just know I have all of these issues. No, it's actually not my fault.
No, it actually is. Like this is.
I wouldn't attribute it to bad karma.
I have can testify. I have so bad karma with anything that has to do with IT, permissions,
It's like it's
whatever.
crazy.
It's really
always-
crazy. It's like it detects that I only have like 10 minutes at a time to work. So whenever I can do that, something happens. And it's really true.
Maybe it's the professor's title.
I think it is.
Still not, okay, we'll look at this later.
Never
This is
have that.
really, like,
Yeah, we don't need to look
Okay.
at it now. It's
So
just
Christina has
interesting.
weird rights permissions to her own files, so that's always fun.
But it's been a little while.
It's
since
been a
this
while since
happened.
we had that issue. So that's on your own personal folders. That is not the login. So then this should not be the issue. You should own all the files on your. Yes. Now we've initiated. We've initiated this project. Now I'm gonna. Oh, why can't I? As we saw before, my library paths are like within my project folder, so we know that it's nested in this RN folder. So I'm gonna do, I'm gonna delete it.
What?
Can't be undone. Let's see about that.
So I just deleted the entire library.
So that's
So, which means that like now, well, it's not gonna actually break anything because I have all the libraries in the second path. But the thing is that I want them back, right? How do I get them back? I deleted, I switched computers, whatever. I want them back. Well, that's interesting.
Oh.
This is fun.
Ooh.
Okay, how about
You went restore or rebuild?
I want to restore. Let's see. Ha! Yes. I actually don't know what it's asking. So let's let's check. What are you asking? This is a long list. Yeah.
I really want to do it.
Why is it so long? Jesus. Is this what I'm forcing you all to install when you're yeah, sure. We'll finish up soon. Do you need the room?
We have another meeting.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
No, just, I was.
No, I'll finish up.
Was going to capture you guys, because we need to talk before 2.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Because we have the meeting at 12:30.
Yeah. Just checking. There it goes.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have actually deleted the full folder, but there we see. It's starting to reinstall them basically from snapshots. So it's getting the exact versions I had last time. Unless because I actually deleted the folder. I should have left the folder and just deleted like the. So it's struggling to make the rest of the path because I took it away. I actually thought they would fix it. There we go. If I make.
But does this save the packages that the version that you used, right?
So it knows exactly what I used. But it doesn't, it's not there. So it remade it. I really thought restore was the one I was supposed to use.
But now you have library.
It says it's, yeah, I know, but there's nothing in it.
Controller is synchronized with log file.
Ah, this is interesting. So when I did this yesterday, it actually worked. So I'm wondering what I did different now than what my notes. I obviously forgot to write something in my notes that I did yesterday. That was very clever. Because I was following the recipe on the RN website, obviously, so it was telling me what to do. But yeah, I know there's a way to restore it. I don't know, clean. Diagnostics. Bit too much diagnostics, I have no idea. Nope, it's not gonna help me, I have no idea what you're showing me. This is also what I usually do when I, like, next to Googling things, having a look at. You would think rebuild would work. Repair? Yeah. No. Okay. Oh, that was a shame. I was going to show something working and then I show it not working. But I will figure it out and tell you what I was doing wrong. Because I did manage to do something similar yesterday.
Just don't delete your library. And
Don't
find
delete
it.
your library. But that's the thing though, I think it should have been able to. That was its point, was to be able to fix it.
That's kind of the whole intention.
Part of it at least. But I might just not be using the correct kind of function for it. Or maybe I did the exact thing that would break it this way. I will figure it out and tell you what I did wrong.
Would you suggest that we use?
I suggest we start doing this.
Yeah, so at the top of our scripts, basically.
No,
No.
that
This
is
is
right.
what-
That's a
this is
good.
what I wanted to know.
That's a good point. No, no, this is not anything that goes on top of any scripts. This is you run rn init at the start, like
Yeah.
in the console.
Yeah,
At the
in
start?
console.
In the console at the start of a project, you work with the project as you normally would.
Mhm.
You might need to at some point run. Don't do anything in there. Run snapshot to make sure that snapshot will kind of take a look through all your files again and make sure that it's captured all of your dependencies. So before sharing with someone, run a snapshot just to make sure that you've captured everything you need. Yeah, so our things we just do in the console. We don't need to like put them in scripts or anything, because that's going to start messing up things again. Because that's going to start reinitiating it every time you try to run your script. That's not what you want. You start it, and then it's running, doing its stuff in the background. Once in a while, you maybe snapshot it, change computers, pull it over, you restore it. Hopefully that works. Not like I just showed that it didn't work because I did the wrong thing. Yeah.
Okay,
So this is a way of trying to kind of make sure that we don't have like colliding package versions, and that we don't kind of mess up other projects that use other package versions in case those need those other package versions to function. Like you're right before you're submitting something, you don't want to upgrade those packages because maybe there's a slight difference that changes like a decimal point in some of your analysis, and then you have to remake all of your tables again. Just that no one wants that level of aggravation. You just you wait, you submit, and you can upgrade at the revision.
so you do this in console when you start a new project, and then never again. And this will actually just create those. Yeah. So that's the
That's the
thing.
point. Yeah,
So every time you take that project up again, this
just
it
happens.
just follows, right?
in the
So
background.
yeah. Okay.
So you will yeah.
So you share the entire project with someone.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
This is why it should work. Maybe it's because I actually have the staging here as well. What does it ignore? Library, local seller, lock, and Python, and staging. This should have worked. Because when it runs Git, it doesn't have those folders. That's why it worked last time.
Don't want to see the first.
No, I don't want to see the.
That's just
I'm good. I don't want to see them all. I'm very curious as to what is stopping it from doing what it's supposed to be doing. But I'll figure that out, and I will let everyone
Let us
know
know.
in the workshop channel what I was doing wrong here. Because that's going to be an interesting thing to explore. Yeah. So the idea is you run it once at the start of the project. We snapshot maybe once in a while. We definitely snapshot before we submit the paper. And so we know we've captured it. We've captured the state of the project right before we submit it. So we can decide when we get it back if we want to use a time capsule or if we actually want to re-upgrade everything at that point. We are able to use it as a time capsule locked in time.
I think very many times, so the request that I get a lot is data for meta-analysis.
Yeah.
And then actually you want to use it as a time capsule.
Then you might, if you
So-
haven't stored the results in its own file.
They often ask for results that I didn't store. So I want to use the same tools to
Then-
produce those results as I
Yeah.
did for the rest of the paper.
Yes, then you should also make sure that you set your random seeds, because we use models that use random seeds, and our results are not reproducible unless we have set random seeds.
But I think they can't demand it at that level.
Probably not, but if you do, I mean,
because-
setting a random seed is super simple. It's like a single, very short line of code. I actually do that a lot if I
Okay.
use models that do run
Yeah.
random numbers.
What is that code?
Set.seed parentheses, and then you just choose whatever number you want. Actually, it doesn't matter, just choose a number from one to whatever billion. I don't know, it can take anything. I've never gotten a number that it doesn't take. And you do that right before any analysis you're gonna run, any model you're gonna run. And that should make because like our mixed models, they're on maximum likelihood, which actually is an iterative process, which does have some random number generations in the background. So there shouldn't be big changes, right? the changes should be on
They
the
would
right decimal.
Be very, very minor.
But if you wanted 100% reproducible, you just set a seed and it will do the exact same thing every time. So that is a possibility. So I've done that if I've, for instance, in my brain, before we had the proper data sharing and I wanted to share some data, I would scramble the IDs in our data set, but I would set the seed first so that I could reproduce the exact same scrambling on my side.
Yeah.
So that if they had questions, I could go back and actually know exactly which data was the problem.
Yeah, I would say so far we have been able to reproduce all kinds of data that we've been asked for, but it gets all the more complicated, I think. So, but having that in mind, I think it is a good idea if we want it at that level, but I mean, they can't demand that.
They
Because
probably can't, but it could
No,
be-
they can't.
but it's also a good idea in terms of like when we're generating stimuli and stuff for computers. I mean, did you know MATLAB starts with the same random seed always? Always. It doesn't have, yeah. So R starts with a new random seed every time. It's kind of random. That's why everything happens at random. So many people have generated stimuli in MATLAB, not knowing that the random seed is the same for everyone to begin with. So the data, so the stimuli aren't actually properly random. So, damn. So it's knowing these things. So setting the seed is good practice if you know you're running a model that has some sort of random generator. But obviously, no one's going to rescue if you don't.
no,
Because it's quite
they
uncommon. I think it's
No.
quite uncommon,
can't.
but it is good practice. Okay, so that's, I can't see any questions in the chat. I've been talking for a long time and shown that things didn't work as I expected, so that's always awesome. But I will figure out what went wrong and I will tell you exactly what went wrong and why and how to fix it. But I really like RN is a good thing to start using when we're working in our projects, and it can easily be initiated for old projects as well. So there's no reason to not try using it physically. Other than the lagringshotell, that's like still up in the air, so we'll figure that out.
I have a brand new permissions problem.
You have a brand. That is
Yes.
okay.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining, people. Julia and Petra.
So we are having a meeting, I guess.
Can you read for me?
No, I don't think so. It is about the family recruitment.
There's most. Well, maybe I do actually want to.
You wanna join? It might be very basic questions that we get into now.
I'll just sit in the background.
Yeah, you can
Kind
do
of,
that because I
try to
think
figure out RN.
in the
while,
beginning we won't be able to get to the point where we talk about data management for these persons. But you would think that, you know, once you start recruiting them, we need to have a model for how they are linked, even with their consents.
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of
So-
why I want to. So I don't know where I'll just no. How do I log out? Come on. There we go.